Hey everyone, this is Kurt Frankum with Leading Saints. I'm the Executive Director of Leading Saints, and this video is to give you maybe just a little slice of some content that we have prepared and coming up for our Meetings with Saints virtual summit. I mean, can you think of a better time in the history of man to have a virtual conference during a pandemic? Of course, we're all self-quarantining, right? We're staying away from church. Church has been canceled, and that's all right, because we have a virtual conference coming up starting on March 17th. It's called Meetings with Saints. And we're going to jump into all things meetings, meeting science, how to manage meetings, meeting agendas, sacrament meetings, one-to-one meetings, board council meetings, all things meetings. We have 20-plus individuals that I've had the chance to interview and record that we're going to share with you through this virtual summit. And it's all free. You just have to go to leadingsaints.org/meetings, and there you can sign up and be a part of it. So I want to talk about the concept of presiding. This is an interesting word, right? I mean, I can't think of a time I've heard the term preside outside of the context of being a Latter-day Saint, or outside of the context of going to church, right? And but it's out there. It's a word, and it's something we often use in our vernacular. And I remember the time I served in the stake presidency, just going, you go and visit different wards in the stake. And I didn't do anything other than sort of show up for sacrament meeting, right? I didn't help with the agenda or plan, but sure enough, every time they would say, President Frankum is here presiding. And I would give a sly grin and think, yeah, I'm here. I'm not doing much, but I'm here, right? And so sometimes we get into we misunderstand what the concept of preside actually means. And it's interesting because I'm currently serving as the priest quorum advisor in my ward, and recently I was meeting with the first assistant in the priest quorum, right? Or the bishop, the first assistant in the priest quorum. And I was going over these different terms and his role, and we were in the handbook and looking at his calling description and understanding that, so he knew what to do as the first assistant. And I was explaining to him the concept of when the bishop isn't there in our quorum meeting as priests, he's presiding. And it may seem like we're just picking on you as the youth leaders when we look at him and say, John, I mean, what would you like to do next? What should we do, right? We're not picking on you. It's because you're presiding and you get to make the call. And I actually asked him, so what does it mean to preside? And he thought, I don't know. As a 16-year-old young man, he hadn't really thought about it. And he said, I think what it means to preside is that means you're the one closest to God in the room. And I thought, well, not exactly. I mean, we're all equal before God's eyes. Just because we have a certain calling or authority doesn't mean we're closer to Him by any means. But I explained to him that it actually means you control the meeting. You call the shots in the meeting. It's up to you to determine how the meeting runs. And recently I was reading in the book called The Art of Gathering, a phenomenal book by Priya Parker, who I can't recommend this book enough as far as for leaders who are in meetings, but also they're just doing gatherings of any type. It could be a Relief Society activity, a Christmas party, or any gathering of people. This is a phenomenal resource to use and reference in this. But she talks about this concept of the host. And the host of a gathering, right? And it's the job of the host, their number one job is to protect all the attendees from a bad gathering. And I thought, oh man, what a perfect definition for presiding. When you preside in a meeting, it is your role as the presiding authority. And it doesn't matter if you're the bishop or the Relief Society president, wherever you are presiding, it is your role to protect all the attendees from a bad meeting. Isn't that fantastic? As you sit and let that marinate and let it digest a little bit, consider your approach to every other meeting. And you soon realize that to preside in a meeting actually starts long before that meeting ever begins. To preside in a meeting means preparation. It means being prayerful. It means considering your agenda and who's on the agenda, right? It could also mean that it's your role when you're sitting in a meeting that's maybe gone off the rails to sit back and think, that was on me. I was presiding. And if you can't do anything in the meeting, or if, without causing major embarrassment or whatever it is, you can at least say, I'm going to figure out how I could better prepare to avoid that meeting turning into a bad meeting. So that's my thought for you today, as you consider the meetings you're in and this concept of presiding. And have you really, especially if you're a leader, have you talked about this concept of presiding with your counselors or with your ward council, with leaders of organizations? Do they truly know that to preside is to protect everybody in the room from a bad meeting? So again, I hope that you will join us for the Meetings with Saints Virtual Summit, where we talk about concepts like this and so many others. We have probably 22 hours worth of content, if you're to add it all up, 20 plus speakers, all talking about how to improve our meeting experience as a Latter-day Saint and being a leader as a Latter-day Saint. So go to leadingsaints.org/meetings, and you can it'll guide you to a place to register for free, and you'll be able to consume all this content that we've put together, and hopefully it'll bless your life to run a better meeting. So that is leadingsaints.org/meetings with an S at the end, and that will take you to the place so that you can run a better meeting.